Okay, so get this. We are diving into like a real-life thriller today. Colonial ambition meets primal fear in the wild.
A story that still has us kind of hooked over a century later. It's about the power of nature, and how unpredictable it can be.
Exactly. We're talking Tsavo man-eaters, 1898. Picture British East Africa right in the thick of building that Uganda railway.
Huge, huge project. Meant to connect the coast all the way to the interior, open up trade, solidify that British control, yeah.
And smack dab in the middle of this whole thing, they got to build a bridge over the Tsavo River. Tough job on its own, even without, well, man-eating lions in the mix.
Right. Imagine that scene. British engineers, Indian laborers, local tribes, all working their tails off in the blazing heat, trying to tame this unforgiving land.
And as if that wasn't rough enough, people start vanishing.
Not just vanishing, dragged away from their tents in the dead of night.
Oh.
No scavenger would do that.
Yeah.
This was calculated, predatory, sent shivers down everyone's spines.
And here's the kicker. It wasn't just any lions, right? Two massive males, but get this, completely maneless.
Unheard of. A male lion. His mane's his pride, his strength. Why were these guys different?
It's a question that still gets researchers going.
Some think it's like a genetic thing, maybe the crazy Tsavo heat. Others say diet, old injuries. Who knows?
But whatever the reason, these lions, they were spreading terror. Bold, cunning, totally unfazed by people or anything. There are stories of them just waltzing past those thorn bush fences, bomas, they called them, meant to keep predators out.
It's wild how fast things went downhill. Everyone living on edge, no sleep, work slowed to a crawl. People booked it, just fled. The whole railway project stalled.
It wasn't just the workers either. Imagine the local tribes, the Maasai, the Kamba. They had lived with lions forever. Lions were powerful, part of their beliefs, all that. Even they were freaked out.
Shows you how deep that fear ran.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a couple attacks here and there. This was a full-blown crisis. This project was a big deal, imperial significance, and it was frozen in its tracks. Everyone asking, how do you stop something that vanishes into thin air? Something that breaks all the rules?
So the railway's stuck, everyone's terrified, and in walks this new guy, Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson.
British military engineer, right? He was supposed to be overseeing the bridge. Now he's got this whole mess on top of him.
Talk about pressure. You're building a critical project, and suddenly you're also the guy who has to stop these, what, supernatural lions?
Exactly. And it's not just the lions themselves. It's the panic. The whole railway, the workers, everything riding on him.
And when I was reading his stuff, what got me was his attitude. Determined, sure, but also kind of like scientific about it.
Patterson was methodical, studied their movements, their patterns, wrote it all down in his journal. He knew to beat an enemy like this, you got to get in their heads.
And he tried everything. Traps, fences, even staked out water holes, hoping to catch them off guard. But these lions, always a step ahead.
They were learning. He'd try something, work once, maybe twice, then boom, the lions figured it out. Like you tried those goat baits, right?
Yeah, figured they'd go for an easy meal.
At first, yeah, they snapped them up. But then they learned how to avoid the traps, even drag those poor goats away right in front of them.
Like they were messing with him. And all this time, the pressure's building, no work on the railway, everyone on edge. More and more victims. Took months of chasing them, living in danger before he finally got a chance.
This wasn't just some hunting trip. This was a whole chess match under the African sun, with people's lives on the line.
Okay, so Patterson hunts down these lions. That's a whole story on its own, but it gets us thinking. Why humans? Lions, yeah, top predators, but they don't usually go for people. What was different here?
The big question, right? Like a lot of these old mysteries, there's no easy answer. But if we dig into the research, look at the different theories, we might get a glimpse of what was going on.
One theory that keeps popping up, that railway, that whole construction project, that's a major change to their world. Cutting through their land, messing with what they normally eat.
Right. Think about it. All those workers clearing the land, that noise, the chaos, those lions' hunting grounds, disrupted, maybe even gone. They might have been starving.
So less food for them means hungrier lions, means maybe they start looking at, well, us as a food source.
Exactly. And those camps, easy pickings for a hungry lion, lots of people, weak tents, not much protection.
Yeah, not a nice thought, but it kind of makes sense in a way. But then there's this other theory, it's pretty dark. The slave trade.
Ah, yeah.
This area was part of a major slave trade route. There are stories about caravans leaving behind bodies of those who didn't make it. Grim stuff.
Right. And the theory is that maybe the lions, they found those bodies, got a taste for human flesh.
So they're not seeing humans as different anymore, just food, whether they're alive or not.
Yeah, it's a disturbing thought. Some researchers aren't sure about it, though, the logistics of it, how lions usually act. It doesn't totally add up.
Adds a whole other layer to the story, though.
For sure. It makes you think about how our actions, even terrible ones like the slave trade, can have these weird ripple effects. We impact nature, whether we mean to or not.
And that brings us to the last theory, and it's pretty interesting. Remember how we were talking about those lions, no manes? Well, scientists got to look at their skulls, and it turns out one had this awful tooth abscess, and the other, major jaw damage.
We're not talking about little scratches here. These were injuries that would have made hunting excruciating. Imagine trying to take down a zebra, a buffalo, with a throbbing tooth, or a broken jaw.
You're saying their lack of manes. It was a sign that they couldn't hunt like they used to.
Could be. This theory saying those lions, they weren't choosing to eat people because they were mean or something. They were desperate. They were hurt. They couldn't catch their usual food. And here we are.
So it's like everything came together in a bad way. The environment messed up, maybe the slave trade had an influence, and then these lions, they're hurting, they're hungry.
A recipe for disaster, almost. This perfect storm.
Patterson, he did finally kill those lions. Their reign of terror ended. But the story doesn't stop there. Their bodies, they were preserved, ended up at the Field Museum in Chicago. People still go see them. Kind of eerie when you think about it.
It's more than just a spectacle, though. Scientists, they can learn a lot from those remains. What they ate, their family history, even maybe why they acted the way they did.
So even after they're gone, those Tsavo lions are still teaching us human ambition, animal behavior, the power of the natural world. It's a lot to think about.
It really is. It reminds us to respect that balance, between us and nature. And also, no matter how tough things get, life, it always finds a way. It might not be pretty, but it finds a way.
Desperation, easy opportunity, or something even weirder. What do you think happened with those lions? It's a question that keeps researchers guessing. And like any good duck dive, we're leaving with more questions than we started with. If you want to learn more, check out the show notes. We've got some cool stuff linked there for you. Until next time, keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and hey, sometimes the best stories are the ones that blur the lines between what really happened and legend.